Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this supplemental part of the Homeschool Connections class, Introduction to Church History. I'm Dan Egan. If you have any questions about what we talked about here, or you don't know what to do, let me tell you my phone number. It is 859-866-7885. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me and just tell me what's happening, and I'll try to help you out. All right, so to set up our notebook, first you need a notebook, and I did ask that you get a graph paper notebook because they're easier, as you will see. I'm using just a regular notebook here as an example, and this will be sufficient for our demonstration. But as we go on, you'll see why a graph paper notebook would be easier. All right, so you want to open your notebook, and so here's the first page, and here's the inside cover. We do not want to use this page. We want to at least turn the page at least once, and then we can begin. All right, what we are trying to accomplish is to make our notebook into a kind of notebook timeline. And each double open page like this, like a regularly open page, will be one whole century, so 100 years. And the part on the left will be the first 50 years, and the part on the right will be the next 50 years. And so let's begin by setting it up. You'll need a pencil and a ruler, but you don't need a ruler. It's just nice to make straight lines. All right, here's my pencil and ruler. And so just to set this up, so over here, we're going to start drawing a line. And let me just show you what I'm doing with the line. So I drew a line here. If you see, I drew a line across the notebook. Now, could I have used the top line? Yes. If you have graphing notebook, you'll want to, about a ruler's width, draw a line on that line. And usually in a graphing notebook, you also won't have this wiring here in the middle that will get in our way, but you'll still have the gutter, as it's called. All right. On the left-hand side, I have 1 AD, and you want to label that 1 AD. You can put it up here. Doesn't matter. And then over, oops, didn't mean to hit that, and I'm still hitting it. Okay. Over here, 100. So this will be our century from 1 to 100. And now, over here, I want to mark the 50-year lines. Each line gets 10 years. And so back over here, I just trace over the red line. And then I use my ruler to mark out every 10 years. And, there are no hard and fast rules for these things. There's no, oh no, like how many blocks do I go? Or you just ultimately need to divide this up so that it can be done. Okay. So here I made this grid, and see why it would be easier to have a graphing notebook. Then you don't need a ruler, and yes, you don't necessarily need a ruler. Okay, you can just trace over those lines that are already present. Now the space that we're going to be writing in is this top space. This is where we'll be writing first. And as we fill in our dates, and I'm saying we're going to be writing in here first because of the first class. This is like the first class area. Everything else will be for future classes. But for right now, we're focusing up here. We're going to ignore the holes, and we're going to just pretend these are evenly spaced things. So I wrote in the number 10 here, and that represents the year 10. So the edge of the paper is the year 1, and this line here represents 10, then 20, then 30, then year 40, year 50, year 60, year 70, year 80, and year 90. Now this is going to take you a minute to draw. So if you want to put this on pause at any time, put it on pause, rewind it, whatever you need to do. And yes, that's what we're doing. So these are our years as a guide. Now, why do we need a guide? Why do we need a guide? We need a guide because we're going to be writing inside here, this top portion for this class. For each class, we'll get a new section. Where is our topic? So we're going to fill this first one up with Jesus. And yes, so that's where we talked about Jesus goes in the first century, right? This is our first century. And if you want to, you can write in what he did. Now, this is the paper, paper you can print out if you want to copy this directly from here and put it up here. He predicts the fall of Jerusalem. That's what I did. I just wrote in, he predicts the fall of Jerusalem. And that's going to help remind me, oh yeah, Jesus is in the first century. And what's something he did? He predicted the fall of Jerusalem. All right. So now I'm finished with the first century. I'm going to go on to the second century. Turn the page, and now you're on another blank page. So where do we start? We start with the year. Oh, and I'm so sorry it got cut off. It's the year 101. 101. Remember, our last page was on 100. So this one starts with 101, and we go up to the year 200, and we draw our first line. And again, we're going to use this space up here to mark in our lines to divide by tens. Okay. And then we go back through, and right now we write in 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, on the other side, 160, 170, 180, 190. Hopefully you're catching on with the pattern. And now what you're going to have to do, this is kind of like the worst part, is going through the first 1,000 years and drawing all these lines. Okay, but if you have a notebook, as I'll show you, the one with the craft paper, you don't even have to write the whole line. You just have to make sure you divide it evenly. You know, each line it's every five squares or something. You'll have to determine how far you go. But you just have to make a little tick mark, and then later on you'll be able to. A tick mark means just like a little line, not a whole line. But a little line to say, hey, this is where 130 begins. Now, in the 100s, who do we study? We studied the life of St. Ignatius, not the whole life, the life of St. Ignatius of Antioch. And so I get out my notebook, or I'll look at my notes, and he is here. And so St. Ignatius, he died. I put a little cross next to the year he died, 110. And he's the first one to call the church Catholic in that year. That's the year he was martyred and wrote those letters. And so I'm just making this timeline. Now, as we go on, so we will make new lines below for the next time we have class in the 100s. All right. And so you'll turn the page and keep going with this pattern. Here is an example of my 100s, and this is all filled in. So I'm sorry it's a little bit messy. This is tape holding down my tab. I love tabs. So it was easy for me to flip open to the first century. You don't have to tab it, but you can. And you see, I just have little tick marks on my graph here. And then these lines represent the first class. I think the next class that we'll have we'll look at the year 70, the destruction of Jerusalem, the persecution by Nero. And you don't have to use colored pens. I did that. I'm a visual person. And I like to see when all these things are happening. And, maybe you can do that however you like. But here's my 100 years. You see, I just have the tick marks. And I have St. Ignatius of Antioch. And I just have a couple more notes that he called the church Catholic. He was actually also a disciple of St. John the Evangelist. And he wrote to St. Polycarp, who we study later on. But you don't need to know all those other things if you just remember that he wrote down the word Catholic. All right. And that is all. So you will continue this, at least for this week, up to through the year 900. And then next week, we'll continue making the timeline. You'll continue your lines up to the year 2000. And we're in the 2000s now. So this year, you'll just do 1,000 years with the lines and getting it ready. And then following week, we'll get the next 1,000 years ready. And then it will be set up really for you to do each class after that. All right. So hopefully this was clear. And you won't have any questions, but if you do, please contact me, and we'll hopefully get it straightened out, or I'll remake the video and make it clear. All right. God bless you all. God bless your studies, and persevere.